Hello and welcome to PM Express. My name is Nana Sakwa IV, your host, and today we are talking about the abuse of incumbency. And indeed, Ghana Integrity Initiative have come up with a report that says that I think those in incumbency take advantage of it. But I think the whole issue is, number one, the fine line between abusing incumbency. At which time do you not be president, and at which time are you private? And then number two, who is more guilty, the one buying the vote or the one selling the vote? And this conversation is going to be wide and interesting. I'm going to take a break. When I come back, we'll be talking abuse of incumbency. Don't move. Well, thank you very much for staying. And with me in the studio is Michael Boadi, who is the Communications Director for Ghana Integrity Initiative.
The Corporate Affairs Manager.
Corporate Affairs Manager. Michael, you're welcome.
Thank you.
It's been a while.
Thank you.
Your Ambantam has run out, so you do a new Ambantam.
I sure will. I sure will. And good evening to the viewers as well.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Michael, what necessitated this report?
Well, I think that as a country we are growing, and our democracy used to be the envy of many African countries, and therefore we needed to strive to make it, to sanitize it and ensure that we mature properly. If you notice, since the year 1992, when we started the Fourth Republic, there has always been argument over the results of, especially the presidential initiative. You can mention the stolen verdict, and then also you run down to the 2012 Supreme Court petition. So it is important that the little things that contribute to ensuring that the election is successful and is free, actually free and fair, is taken care of. So Ghana Integrity Initiative, with its the coalition, other coalition members, CDD, the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, and then the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, thought it wise that, look, why don't we embark on this project, reducing abuse of incumbency and electoral corruption, just to promote, one, free and fair election, a level playing field, and also increase the legitimacy of the outcome of the election. So that, in a nutshell, why we're doing this project.
Okay. Can you be a president and not abuse incumbency?
Well, it is possible. Let me quote what a lecturer said in Harvard. A Harvard lecturer is called David Cohn. He said something like, this conflict of interest, which is the critical ingredient when it comes to abuse of incumbency, are ubiquitous and inevitable in all professional life. The challenge is not to eradicate it, but to recognize it and manage it sensibly and effectively. So it is easy to argue that, hey, you will not abuse incumbency. It's not possible. But indeed, it is possible. What we want to do is that we recognize the fact that it is difficult, but we must strive. One, recognize that it is there, and it creates unfair advantage in the competition, and then make efforts to reduce it, so that when we talk about a free and fair election, it is indeed free and fair. Since 1992, you will realize that every opposition party cries abuse of incumbency. It's interesting that both the NPP and the NDC had all been in government. And depending on which side of the coin you are, you cried abuse of incumbency. So what do? We don't have to say it is not possible to eradicate it, so let it go. Ultimately, you and I, who are not in government, tend to suffer the abuse that comes thereof.
According to the report, which areas do the abuse come the most?
Well, you know, before we even look at the areas, I would pray that we get some clarity as to what the abuse is all about. Also following the question you asked as to whether can you be in power and not abuse incumbency. When you listen to most of the arguments on radio, and most people say, well, you know, the president must continue to be a president and carry out his functions as a president. So therefore, you know, where do we draw the line? The president was elected into office not for his own, simply for his own good or to promote his own interest. He was elected into office to promote the general interest and well-being of all Ghanaians. And therefore, whatever decision that the president takes, it should be in furtherance of the interest of every Ghanaian. Now, because we recognize that the president would have to satisfy every Ghanaian, we gave the president certain facilities. So we've given the president bodyguards, we've given the president cars, in fact, we've made his office very comfortable. Now, in using all these, in fact, we say the word here is using all the facilities we have given to him. We hope that the ordinary Ghanaian on the streets well-being will be enhanced. Now, if the president goes beyond using these facilities and now begin to champion his private interest, then he's crossing the line, and that is where we talk about abuse of incumbency. So I'll cite an example. Recently, we all read or we all saw the president donating headpans, cardboard motor, etc. It is good the president is giving resources to Ghanaians. But you see, it is our resources, and you are doing that to promote or enhance the well-being of the beneficiaries. But you notice that, did you see anybody wearing PPP, NPP t-shirt receiving any of the cardboard motors? I didn't see it. Maybe you saw it. But then, beyond that, the president then goes and says, if you vote for me, I will do more. As soon as he began to, he asked for vote, he's now promoting his what? Private interest. So then he has crossed the line, and that is where the abuse comes in. So he will be doing his normal, you know, presidential function. But whilst he's doing his presidential function, he should not be asking people to vote for him. Whereas when he asks people, as soon as he does that, then there's a conflict between his private interest and the national interest. And when there is conflict of interest, there is what the Constitution addresses that in 284. He says that the president or no public officer should put himself in any position that conflicts with his official duty, his official duties.
Is that going to be the case where the president turns up on Monday, gives his outboard motors in his suit and just his coat of arms, and then he comes back on Thursday and says, well, you know, I'll see you on Monday, but, you know, I'm here now to ask for your votes. And we will still say, there you go. Because he went there on Monday to give them outboard motors, he's come back on Thursday to demand votes based on the goodies that he gave on Tuesday. I mean, well, is he ever going to win?
Well, you see, it is not about not going. That is why I cited the quote. He says that we cannot eradicate it, but we must manage it sensibly. So when people elect people into office, there is a certain trust that is reposed in them, that their actions, their decisions, you understand, will exhibit worthy of that trust they repose in them. So you don't expect of the president to act in any way that betrays that trust. So you don't take the people whose mandate you are riding on or you are executing to not know what they are about. So every decision or every step that you take, to be able to hold that trust and to be able to remain the excellent or excellency that we call you, you have to be mindful. And that's what we say.
This afternoon, I was listening to Asempa Kaba's show, and then he called the campaign spokesperson, the president is somewhere in the Volta region. So Dr. Omani Boana is the campaign spokesperson.
Right.
Now, one thing which came up in the newsroom was that, is this not his working hours? So, now that he's talking as a campaign, whatever it is the state still paying him? What then happens? Does he have to go break for holiday and campaign, or stay in holiday and campaign?
Yeah, well, ideally, you see, there are some difficulties here. And part of this conversation that we are having, and part of the things that the Ghana Integrity Initiatives Coalition is seeking to achieve is, let's have a national conversation about it, and let's begin to put in place measures that regulates some of this. So we may, for instance, if you look at the public service, if you're a public servant, it is required of you, okay, as soon as you put yourself in active partisan politics, to put down the public service, to resign, you understand, and engage in the active public, the partisan politics. Why? Because you see, at that point, you are not being sincere. Your actions are, you are corrupting or abusing the office that you're holding, because the state is paying you to deliver a certain service. So Omani Boama, at that point, you understand, should be in the office to promote the public interest. But here, they are promoting public partisan interest. And those are the challenges that we think that we must begin to talk about it. The difficulty lies in, as soon as these issues come up, the party in government takes a defensive posture. The opposition then attacks. But you see, I think that at every point in time, we will have one party or the other in government. Why don't we, as citizens, sit back and say, look, these things are not helping us. One time or the other, we will be in one of these positions and we will cry or defend. So why don't we set out a framework that regulates how we conduct ourselves going into elections? Because you see, when the government, Omani Boama is speaking, okay, for the government before elections, maybe 2 years down before elections, he speaks in his capacity, in fact, as a minister of information or a minister of communication. He's not speaking for the NDC party. So what has changed? You realize that there's some misnomer here. Now, public officers who are supposed to do public duties are now doing partisan and private duties. Is that fair? So that the poor man on the streets, who is speaking for the poor man on the streets, we are left on our own. And we think that, look, we must grow up. As we are growing our democracy, we must be doing certain things right. If Omani Boama wants to do partisan work, he should do it in his private capacity. When, for instance, the president wants to do partisan thing, let us make it fair. Maybe the president would want to pay for some of the things that he would, some of the state stuff that he would use. You understand me? Then we know that, oh yes, our first gentleman is indeed living. Because you see, at what point would the policeman on the street, when, for instance, he arrests the taxi driver, and he says, okay, you can go. Next time, don't do that again. As the taxi driver is walking away, he says, but won't you come and say thank you? He comes and, folds something, so a note, and gives it. The policeman will say, oh, but he only thanked me. I didn't collect bribe. But we frown on that. So if the ordinary policeman cannot do it, why would the first gentleman do it? And why do we defend it when the first gentleman is doing it? That is the issue. So that we don't have we don't have separate laws for the big men, and then we don't have separate rules for the small men.
Now, suggestion. I mean, so if we go into campaign era, should those who will be active in, let's say, Omani Boamah then hands over to his deputy, so that the deputy is now doing government work, and then he can do campaign trail, so that they don't mix the two? I mean, could something like that be?
Well, I think that ideally, if he wants to speak, you see, it is not this or that. If I want to speak for the president, let me resign, so that I have all the time. The taxpayers' resources is not used to pay you. You understand me? You do party work, and I'm sure the party may find resources to compensate you.
Let me go to the phones and acknowledge Dr. Brenya, who's a political scientist who's joined us. Dr. Brenya, hello and welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening, good evening. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. I hope you're doing well.
Very well, sir. The issue of abuse of incumbency has come up, and we are just trying to find the fine line between at which point, you know, it says that you are abusing incumbency and you are playing fair. Now, you're a political scientist, so maybe you can help us. First of all, we've agreed that it's not even possible. You know, it's just that you can manage it. But how you can manage it has become I think the big question now. How is it possible that if you're president, you can do something and your opposition will see that, oh, no, he didn't use his influence as a president, he played it fair?
Good evening once again. I think the issue of abuse of incumbency is very dicey, especially when it has to do with people who are holding official positions in the capacity of the president. I think where it becomes a worry is when there seems to be no level grounds in terms of what is available to the president and what the other presidential candidates also have available for them. If the law is made in such a way that at least those in opposition could, to a large extent, also be given some resources and make resources available to them, then I think the complaint of abuse of incumbency could probably decrease. With regard to the president, I mean, it's dicey. He's still the president of Ghana. He still has to perform his presidential duties. And therefore, when the president travels out, we can't deny him access to some of the things that he has as a president. And if given those, I mean, him maintaining that as the president of Ghana, even as he uses that to, let's say, campaign, if that becomes the big issue here, it is dicey. So are we then calling for a president to resign? Or what happened as a commander-in-chief? What happened? Why is it on the campaign ground? An issue happened that he has to take a decision. He has to issue a command. If at that point we are trying to say that he ceases to be the president and therefore he cannot have access to things that are related to his office, would we then require the president that when things like that happen, he has to give orders as the president? I think the big issue that we have to deal with when it comes to this abuse is, or vote buying, as they are saying, is one, if the level, there's a fair playing ground that opposition can also have access to some of the vehicle and other things. Two, if the president in a campaign style is not distributing things, as he's accused of wearing NDC t-shirt to distribute above motors. Of course, once you have the party paraphernalia and other things associated with you, then it makes it more as if you are doing things for yourself. But the problem is, even when that happens, does it change him as the president? He's still the president. He will still issue orders if at that point something happened, even as he wears the NDC t-shirt. My basic concern is what I hit on, is that even as the president have access to those resources, those in opposition should at least be given some, so that we would not have to cry so much about abuse of incumbency. But it is very dicey. to draw a line between when the president is acting as a president and when he's acting as a political candidate.
Dr. Bria, is it just an issue of trust that we're more worried about, or fair play?
Is it an issue of trust?
Trust or fair play?
I think right now the real problem, is dicey to put it in each way, either trust or the other way, because the real issue at stake, I think the real issue why people tend to make this kind of classification is when it feels that one party, by way of his position, is benefiting. And it tends to rise a lot in third world countries. In the United States, when the certain president, when Obama was campaigning as the president of the United States, he had access to everything. In fact, even during the campaign time, because of the possibility of individuals to attack him, his security level even goes up. But the reason why those in the United States do not complain is that even as the president's security goes up, they give something to the opposition party. In a way, it might not be the same. One is the president of the United States. The other is someone who likely can be the president. The level of security will not be the same. But the problem is when the president travels out, he's traveling on the Air Force One as the president. Even when he goes on campaign, he's traveling on Air Force One as the president. They do not differentiate Obama as a candidate from Obama who is the president. But because the opposition equally have something that is similar, that is paid for by the state, you don't get this kind of complaints like we face in third world countries. So I think it bothers both because we don't trust this individual and also because we are worried about the fact that this person is enjoying something, and more so when it looks like when you're in opposition, you don't have enough resources. You would have wished that the state at least help you in meeting some of your demands. So it is both that is at play here. But I really think the central issue is that the law does not give those that are not in government some level of cushion them in terms of their finance, and that has become the issue.
Dr. Benya, hold on for me. Let me come to studio. I have Michael Bwedi in studio. Michael Bwedi is from GII and is corporate affairs manager. So what I hear is Edidija. I'm hearing a lot of Edidija here. One person is having a bigger portion of the cake and the other person is not having anything. Forget about even a small portion. And that's where people are getting irate, because he gives an example that, look, Obama flies Air Force One, which is a big deal to fly Air Force One. But the other parties do also get something. So, well, they're content.
Well, my information is that when Obama flies the Air Force One for political activity or for campaigning, it's paid for. So it is not free.
Okay, but it's paid for by his campaign team.
By his campaign team. So that's my information. Okay. I may be wrong, but that can be clarified. But that is my understanding. But you see, it is not an issue of also giving some to. So let's come back to the Adbot Motors. One lady, as it Bauer, Ms. Bauer, was interviewed in the studio, and he was asked, it was a morning show, is the Adbot Motors paid for by state? Was it bought by state resources, with state resources? She confirmed to the affirmative. Yes, but it was an ongoing project. Now, do we say that, okay, so now we should also give the opposition parties some Adbot Motors so that they also share? It's not possible. You see, the word here is abuse. The abuse then means that there are certain things that you can use, but when you overuse them, then you are abusing. You see, so if you use them to your advantage, your private advantage, and the disadvantage of your competitor, then the field is not level. So how then do we go into a competition? We are all paying the same, what do you call that? Filing fee. We are all canvassing for the same vote from how many, 10 million plus, electorate. But you are giving state, you have access to state resources, and you are giving out state resources, you know, which is partly your tax and my tax, you understand me? And then you are using that at my disadvantage. So we are saying that no, the president, by virtue of his office, will be given certain resources. You can't take away the president's security, even if, whilst he's campaigning. You can't take away the president's car whilst he's campaigning. Those are his offices. But the president cannot use state resources, you understand, to buy outboard motors, to buy cars, to buy other things, Bentua or any other thing, okay? And then give out and then ask people to vote for them. In fact, by even giving people resources and or giving people things or buying people or giving people money and asking for their vote in itself is electoral corruption. You understand? When I give you money and say vote for me, that in itself is electoral corruption. It's illegal, it's wrong, because the law frowns upon that. The law says that, look, share your ideas. Tell us what you can do, what you have done, what you can do. You understand? Let's test your idea. Let's test the various ideas and choose the most superior idea and then vote for. So I should not vote by inducement. You don't induce people to vote for you. Let people out of their own conviction vote for you because they believe that you will contribute or help in solving their problem.
I think that's going to lead me to my next, which is vote buy.
That's right.
And vote buying affects all political parties, you know, somehow. Just that some are greater than others, depending on how much cash they have. And you tend to find out that whichever party is in power would, you know, seem to be accused of more vote buying than the others. What would be deemed as vote buying?
Well, the vote buying, I would read what our definition, our operational definition says. It's simply giving anything, you know, any form of inducement, you know, to get people to vote for you. He says that vote buying is an act of offering an inducement by a political party, a candidate, or a candidate's agent with a clear intention of harvesting the recipient's vote. That is vote buying. Now, so all these things that we are giving, and we are not saying that it's only the ruling government that is also vote buying. In our study, we realized that, well, all of a sudden there is this sudden, you know, thing from Dr. Bawumia giving one borehole, school furniture here, and all these things. All these things are in the hope that, you know, people will vote for them. You understand? You are inducing people. Well, if Dr. Bawumia is charitable enough, is kind enough, was doing these things some 4 years ago, we have no problem. It's a good gesture. We know that definitely we have uneven development in our various constituencies or our various communities, and therefore they would need some of these things. I just returned from the Upper East. If you see certain school building and certain school facilities, it is in such a deplorable state. So if Dr. Bawumia can provide that, that's no problem. But you see, insofar as you're doing it around this era and you are doing it ostensibly to induce people to vote for you, we think that no, you are compromising the genuine decisions of Ghanaian citizens to vote. Have you noticed that right after every election, the successive president, a successful president, when you ask people on the street, did you vote for this person? They say, no, I didn't vote for it. Did you vote? This person says, practically almost everybody says that I didn't vote for it. So then who voted for the man in power? Why? Because you see, people didn't make that political decision voluntarily. They were most people tend to be induced. And you know, the most serious phenomena that is even growing out of this vote buying now is vote selling. That communities now troop in and say, if you don't construct my road, we will not vote. So no road, no vote, no electricity, no this, no that, no. What are we doing to our democracy? Because people have realized that this is the cocoa season. If you want politicians to do things for you, this is the time. And overnight, roads are constructed. By elections, you all know, overnight, roads are constructed. Within a short time, you know, these things are happening. You understand? And we think slowly we are destroying the beauty of our democracy. And we are robbing people of their legitimate right to make their own decisions.
Let me bring Dr. Brenya in here. Dr. Brenya. Hello, do I have Dr. Brenya on the line?
Yes.
Doc, I think some very interesting points have been raised here. Vote buying and vote selling. I mean, I'm a traditional ruler myself, and my road is quite dodgy. So I'm probably contemplating and going to see my people, look, do we sell our votes to get this road or not? And I'm probably not the only one thinking so. So, I mean, I don't even know how to frame the question, but where have we found ourselves in this trap where we have to wait for 4 years, blackmail to get some sort of development in our localities?
Absolutely, I do agree with your guess on the Electoral Commission vote buying and vote selling that is going on. And we know that is inimical to democracy. It's not the best option to do. And on the point that if the president or a candidate of a political party gives out something and in return asks people to vote for you, that is of course the Electoral Commission. That's when I do agree with. I was talking specifically about the president deciding his duty as a president, using resources available to him while he goes on campaign. But when it comes to distribution of resources in a way that you entice people to vote for you and sort of corrupt their mindset in a decision that they should have made voluntarily, then when you give some sort of reward, then at that time the individual is compelled by your gift and their conscience to sort of give you their vote, which in itself becomes a system of patronage, and that doesn't augur well for societies. And you realize that because individuals have come to realize that that is the only time that they can get the politicians to respond to their needs, and it turns out to this vote selling, as you just rightly said. And I think that is not right for democracy. Now, what do we do at this point? What can we do? We are living in a system where individuals are faced with poverty, where our politicians, because of the kind of contract that we enter into, the politicians come in, they buy our vote, we vote for them, the contract has ended, they fail to represent us for the next 4 years, and they wait for another 4 years to come in. And then you get the electorate all to say, well, if I don't get my share this time, I'm not going to see this candidate for the next 4 years. And this is the time that I must also sell my vote. It is very bad for our democracy. We wish that does not happen and will not happen. Unfortunately, there has been order. Even those in opposition are buying and votes are being sold to them. Is there a way out in all this? I think this is embedded on the voter. The voter has to know that the contract between you and the politician is a contract of representation. That in the 4 years, the politician has to represent you. That you are not going to get that representation, you are not going to get politicians to provide for your needs the moment you sell out your vote. The moment you sell out your vote, it's a contract. Give me your vote, I give you material things. And the moment I give you the material things and you give me the vote, the contract is ended. I think it's imperative on us to educate the electorate on the fact that if you take that short-term material thing, that politician will not represent you.
Dr. Brenya,
it's a dicey, it is a difficult issue, but I think with gradual education, we might be able to get this imprinted in the mind of people.
Very good, because I was just going to say that, look, in the absence of accountability and in the face of impunity, we are left with nothing but blackmail. Because number one, we are scared to demand accountability from government officials, and they also don't care. You become shameless opportunists, as some of them. And so you just have to wait, and then when the last minute when he needs your vote, you just say, look, my roads, my water, my electricity, or you can forget it.
Exactly, that is the problem. But one thing is that we should know that if we speak a different language to these politicians, they will act differently. If the politicians, if at the end of 4 years they come to us and we make them know that no, you are not going to give us electricity at the last minute and get our vote. Now we expect that for the 4 years that you are there, you are representing us. Something that is very difficult, given the level of poverty in third world countries. It's very difficult. But I believe strongly that many of our electors are doing that because this whole game of democracy that we started is new to us. We are not so much used to getting our representatives to give us true representation. We are used to leaders coming and giving us projects. And therefore, anytime we see a leader, whether in a democratic system or in a military dictatorship or whatever, we feel that once the leader comes around, that is the opportunity for the leader to give out the project. It's like when a king visits a locality. We expect that once the kings come in, then the locality must get something. And we take that into our politics. But it has to be a new form of education that we have to tell them, look, this is a long-term representation that you are getting from the people. That if you do not allow them to influence your vote at the last minute in a way that you sell it out, that maybe throughout the 4 years, you can get them to do things for you because they will know that if they don't do it and they come in as the fourth year, at election time, you will not listen to them. I must admit that those positions is going to be difficult, but I believe that with gradual education, that if we do that, the politicians will change because they respond to our needs. The politicians feel that if I go in empty-handed, nobody will listen to me, so I must go armed with material things to give away. And that is what I think the root of the problem is. And some sort of education needs to start now. Some sort of change of mindset needs to start now. I cannot guarantee that when we start now, we can get a result today. But I believe in long term, gradually, we will change things. But for now, it is dicey, it is difficult, but I think it's worth trying.
Thank you very much, Dr. Brenya. I'll take a quick break now, and then when I come back, we'll find out how it is that if the voter is indeed getting smarter or the voter is still the same. Don't go. Very interesting abuse of incumbency and vote buying. Just before the break, I was just asking if the voter was getting smarter. Indeed, are the institutions getting stronger because it just hasn't one person or one party. It takes a whole lot for the voting to come by. And I'm going to Michael and find Michael, Chiefs. Nowadays, we are always, you hear this chief saying, well, I'm for him, I'm for them. But chiefs, we were not supposed to be part of the game. I mean, should we be part or should we not be part?
Well, Nana, have you received your Land Cruiser?
No,
what are your V8?
I haven't received my V8.
Hey, tell it, Nana.
Not been a V1. Not been a V1 yet.
Then you have to look sharp.
You see now?
They say. Well, but that is the problem. When all other institutions are weak and are not strong and are not up in, and doing, that our culture requires that we look up to our chiefs. It was not for nothing that the Constitution barred chiefs from getting involved in active partisan politics, so that at least they become the voice of conscience, our hope of glory, But unfortunately, some chiefs have joined the fray. They are also now endorsing. So whom do we account? You see, because talk about accountability. The voter had sold their votes. So the politician had already accounted to you. You cannot now turn around and demand, because you see, it's a social contract. So you offer your votes for sale, they pay you 50 cedis, or they pay you advert motor, or they pay you a cloth, a piece of cloth. So when then do you ask for accountability again? For the next 4 years, you wait. You understand me? So it is no wonder that the politicians, after 4 years, they roll up their glass. After the election, they pull up their glasses, they roll up their glass, and they don't mind us. Tinted glasses, you don't see them. You understand? And then after a year or 6 months of election, they come to funerals and outdoorings. It's not for nothing, because you see, it's time to renegotiate again. That's when they come. The truth is that we pray that the chiefs will be up and doing. They should stop doing the, endorsement. You understand? Then we look at other institutions. The chiefs can then call other state institutions to be up and doing, to do the right thing. Because you see, if you take the political parties law, the Act 574, there's a provision in section 14, 1 and 2, that says that a political party shall, within 21 days before a general election, so counting from 7th backwards, 21 days to the general election, they are supposed to submit to the commission a statement of its assets and liability. This, if it is done and the commission enforces it and ensures that this is actually properly done, we should be able to tell whether the political parties are able to fund the kind of things they are giving around and where they are getting the monies from. You understand me?
We have to be concerned about it.
We have to be concerned and we have to insist. That is why we are saying, Ghana Integrity is saying that, look, let's start the conversation now and let's begin to look at, let's tick the boxes. So 21 days to the election, we go to the commission and ask, has the political parties filed their assets and liabilities? And we are interested to know. And once we know that, we can checkmate that with the billboards, the campaigns, the donations, and the constructions that they are making as to whether it tallies. And if it doesn't, then we raise questions. And if it doesn't, then the politicians, the voters would have to look sharp, because somebody would have to pay for those things. And there's no wonder after every election, the country sinks into deficits, the country sinks into various crises. We think that, look, it's about time that democracy is supposed to make us better. If it will not make us better, it should not make us worse off.
I mean, there's a lot of argument that the voter is getting smarter. And I don't know, maybe because I haven't done any research, but I just still see it as business as usual. I don't know if in your research you've come across voters getting smarter.
Well, I think that if people talk about voters being smarter, it means that now the voters are now selling their votes, and that is dangerous. In fact, they are becoming smarter, but in a very dangerous and unproductive ways. You understand? Because now they are demanding, cocoa, when the cocoa season comes, they'll demand their pound of. But you see, what we think that, what we are praying, that this smartness should translate into their voting decisions. I mean, the whole essence of this whole democratic experiment is to see that voters are making wise decisions, that their decisions are that, look, we're choosing better, superior ideas. And when we choose the superior ideas, we ensure that those ideas are implemented and there is return on those ideas. It is not just the ideas on paper and, we get the votes and then we give various excuses why we couldn't do A or we couldn't do B. But we have to challenge you. And even if when you bring the ideas, the voters should question as to whether the ideas are practicable, ideas can be implemented. We shouldn't also wait for the politicians to argue that out as well, that you can do it or you can't do it. And this is where we call the academia to come and, look, test those ideas and ensure that, look, indeed, those ideas can be implemented or cannot be implemented. At that point, the academia, who are also part of the voters, are helping the ordinary man to take a voting decision, a judicious and right voting decisions, so that it is not about how much you give me. It is not about, if you give me, I should swear that I'll vote for you and the likes. But it would be more scientific and more intelligent decision. I pray and I pray that, look, 2016 will be one such time that the voter would have the opportunity to take a decision that is based on his conscience, not on influence. And that is why we are going at length to ensure, to discourage this vote buying. We're discouraging abuse of incumbency, so that at least the president that will be elected or maintained, will be one that everybody agrees that indeed we voted. I will be proud to say that, look, the one I voted for indeed won the election.
I must give credit to Joy FM, to Asempa. who are now doing like critical analysis on the manifesto to see if it is practical. I know there's a couple of stations that have adopted it, but I don't think it's many enough. I think it should be the culture cross-board, where, like you're saying, you pick up one aspect and break it down to see, is it factually right? You know, the numbers, do they tally? You know, the time period, is it feasible? So that we can get into it. But what then happens is that people who support them and this doesn't go just start calling, and then the barrage of abuse start coming in. So I think many good people are keeping quiet because of this.
Well, if the thing is that we all at one point in time wants to keep quiet. But when you keep quiet, what happens? Definitely some voting will take place. Definitely, you see, we must not let the wrongdoing triumph over the right. So that is why some of us are encouraged to speak out. You understand? So Nana, you are speaking out because you think the right things ought to be done. What we are hoping we can do, and GI in its own way does it, is that we bring ideas, we bring people together. I think that the media should draw the line also between competition and then also who gets the breaking news and stuff, and also have some conversation amongst yourselves that, look, we are all going to do some election work. This one, it is our civic responsibility. It is our corporate social, let's take it as a corporate social responsibility, and educate or interrogate the issues so that we educate the public. You see, Joy FM can do so much. Your sister stations or your partner stations can do so much. But if collectively you put resources or put heads together, we believe that we'll go very far, so that the insults will not matter. I mean, it hurts when you're doing it individually. You understand? But if you put your resources together, the insult will not matter at all. I mean, Ghana Integrity and its coalition members, since Friday, had been subjected to all kinds of attacks.
Yeah.
But you see, it is the good of the country. That is why I'm here. You start work at 8 and it is almost 10 p.m. and you're still here. But it's for God and country. The very people who will insult you, someday posterity will judge them. And they will sit back and say, well, indeed, I think that these people are right. I mean, if the people are insulted, if they are in government, the day they go into opposition, they will sit back and say, I think that on this score, they are right, they were right. And they will begin to appreciate the work that we're doing now. But you see, we must start one day. I mean, there are people who had asked us that, GI and your coalition members, why now? The question is, if we don't do it now, when? Because you see, every time there will be somebody in government, and every time the person may be tempted to do what is not right. When we don't speak out now, okay, tomorrow we cannot guarantee what will happen. So now that we have, fortunately, the president is a media-friendly person, he will listen to you, I'm sure. We pray that he will listen to you. And then, so let's talk, let's speak. I mean, the people who may be insulting us, I mean, we have people also within the presidency who will appreciate that, well, if we did this wrong, we will change. And if they don't change now, when someday they are not in government again, they will learn something from it. So we have to light the candle. And what we're doing now is that we're lighting the candle, and surely it will be seen.
On the subject of vote buying, I need to buy a vote, even though what am I? Well, if you don't vote for me, I won't come on the screen. So that's my. But we've been nominated RTP Current Affairs Show Host of the Year. So you have to, send a text in on my behalf, and I've got 3 nominations. So pick up your mobile phone. It's RTP Ansakwa TC Tango Charlie TV 1446. RTP Ansakwa TC for TV 1446, and then RTP Ansakwa TS Radio Talk Show Host of the Year Radio, also 1446, and then overall RTP Personality of the Year RTP Ansakwa RTP 1446. Send in your votes. Let me bring in a couple of these awards in here. But I want to say thank you very much to Michael for doing your service for God and country. and I'll always offer a platform anytime we need to do this education.
Thank you very much. Just one quick one.
Quick one, 20 seconds.
There is a toll-free line. If you can call. It is 0800 100 250.
Again.
0800 100 250. And you can call, and if you see any abuse, you can report to us.
There you go. Tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again. Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.